Hi everyone, it's Kathie. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm featuring the May 2018 Paper Pumpkin Kit, and this is alternate project number 1 finally. Bear with me, guys. All right, we're going to get started. Here is the card that we're going to make, and we're going to start off with the flower. I stamped that using the Amazing You stamp set, and I stamped it with black memento ink. And it's on Whisper White. Now, if you don't have this stamp set, you can use any flower stamp that you have in your stash. All right, so moving on to the label elements. So 2 of them is from the kit, and the 2 white pieces, I just took one of them and then traced it out on white cardstock and then fussy cut it out. And I have a black panel and a real red panel, and we'll talk about that afterwards. Okay, moving on to the white label piece that I cut out. I'm just going to draw a slightly curved V shape, and this is going to be the male torso. So it's mainly the shirt that we're going to create. So a slightly curved to the left V shape, somewhat in the center, and then we're going to create the neckline. Now I did want to elongate the right side a little bit more, and then the left side is just a little bit shorter, and that way it kind of angles to the left and follows that flow. I hope that makes sense. Okay, we're gonna fussy cut it out next, and then we're gonna do the neckline. The entire piece is a teeny bit narrow for my liking, so it could be a little bit wider, but nonetheless, it turned out pretty good. And I didn't really like that neckline, so I'm just gonna smoothen that out a bit because it was a bit too stark at the center area. Okay, now I'm just drawing in a center line. Try to get it as straight as possible, following the shape. And then I drew in a line on each side, and now I'm going to outline it with a black Stampin' Up marker. That is going to be the collar for the shirt, and then I'm just going to follow the line that I drew for the buttons. And I'm going to put that to a side and let it dry for a bit before I erase the pencil lines. And this part here, I'm just scribbling real red on a white piece of cardstock to create the bow tie. And I just drew 2 triangles together, and then I'm going to fussy cut it out. Now you could use real red or whatever color you want to use for the bow tie. I just didn't feel like pulling out some real red, so I just figured I'll quickly scribble the red color on white cardstock, and it'll work out just fine because it is quite a tiny little piece. And I'm just drawing in the bow tie details, and I rounded each of the points on the bow tie because it was just a little too pointy. All right, so I erased the pencil lines, and then I'm just going to stick it down onto that label. And for the bow tie, I just put a little small piece of dimensionals, or a little piece of dimensional on the back of that to raise it. And I'm just going to snip off that little bit that's hanging over. All right, moving on to the second white piece. I've come down about 3/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to draw a sweetheart neckline. So basically, you're just going to create a heart shape. And once you're happy with the top part, we're just going to remove about 1/8 of an inch on the sides. I do measure a few times because you want this piece to fit inside of that beige label piece or crumb cake. So I did measure a bunch of times to make sure it fits okay, and now I just glued it down. All right, so we're done with the torso pieces, and we're moving on to the flower. We're just going to do quick coloring. I'm using Blushing Bride and Poppy Parade. That's a new color. I'm going to do a flicking motion to color in each of the petals, starting off with Blushing Bride. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of color around the edges. And then with the darker color, I'm going to do the same flicking motion, but the strokes are going to be just a little bit shorter. And then I'm also going to highlight around the flower. And then back with Blushing Bride to blend the colors together. And for the center, I used Daffodil Delight and Mango Melody, but I think you can just use the Daffodil Delight because the Mango Melody didn't make much of a difference. And I'm just doing a little bit of fussing here, and I'm just adding a bit more color at the ends of the petals, and then I'm just deepening or getting that center a little bit more deeper with the Poppy Parade, and then some extra blending. All right, for the leaves and the stems, I just outlined it with Lemon Lime Twist, and then those dots, I dotted it with the darkest color, which is the Poppy Parade, just to give it some extra color there. And then I fussy cut out this piece and left somewhat of a little tiny border around it. Okay, so moving on to the black panel, it measures 4 inches by 5.5, and then I mounted it on the one side to leave a red edge. The real red is 4.25 by 5.5 inches. And now I'm just going to stick the two torso pieces together. I didn't press it down just yet. I'm just kind of placing everything, making sure I like how it looks. And the sentiment is from the floral phrases. I used the congratulations, just stamped that on a piece of white cardstock, and I just cut it out and added a little fishtail. The flower, I raised that with dimensionals, and also I'll do the same thing with the sentiment. All right, so basically that's the simple layout. I added a glitter gem in the center of the flower, and I picked the yellow color. And I added 3 little rhinestones at the end of the sentiment. And then afterwards, I did add a bit of Wink Stella on that flower, and I mounted it on a top folding card base. So that's our card. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully I'll be able to create a few more before the next paper pumpkin arrives. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye for now.